Okay, that's my get in there. Build a skid plate. I just cut this out of 1/4-inch plate using this template. I would like to take the edges and fold them up so that it gives it some strength.
Oh man, that is total crap.
And then possibly put some ribs inside here. And then the front, I would like to angle up a little bit so that if rocks do catch the front, it has a higher chance of pushing up on the truck and sliding over it. So learning from guys like BleepinJeep and other fabricators who don't have a giant breast brake. If you can see this, I've cut slices out of where I want to bend, but left like little pieces where it's still connected. And the reason that I like to do that, the reason that people do that is so that you can bend this and it'll stay on, it'll stay straight. Leave a couple of places where it's still connected. You could take this bend this piece up, and if it doesn't break, then everything will hold itself straight. The rear skid plate is going to be a lot easier because it just has to cover the transfer case, and then it's basically going to bend up just a little bit to fit the form of the cross member, and then I'll make a little cover where this hole is so that I can still change the fluid without having to drop the whole cross member and skid plate. Okay, that one worked way better. I rolled them up, essentially making a little sled. When you think about it, I think this front skid plate is going to be the harder one to set up, just because of the complex mounting that I have to do in front in order to get around this front drive shaft. So I'm back at it working on these belly pans. Not sure how well you'll be able to see in the dark, but I've got this thing that we made yesterday all jacked up, and I'm gonna find a way to mount it to the cross member and find a way to mount it to the frame up in the front. You can see I have about 1.5 inches between the engine oil pan and the skid plate, and that's what I'll be working on. And I'll update you throughout the day, because I don't have time to film and do camera tricks and move the camera around and all this stuff while I'm working. Unfortunately, I've got way too much to do on this project, because I basically have today and then 4 or 5 days next off rotation to finish this and get it ready to go on the trailer. We don't even have time to rigorously test this thing out, because I've still got to mount, wire up this winch, finish the rear of this roll cage, tie in the rock sliders somehow. I've got to fix like 2 leaks on this engine, one for the valve cover gasket, one for a coolant leak. I have to put on a coolant temperature sensor, which involves tapping a new hole, finding my 2-wire temp sensor and getting this thing all together. Not to mention, we have to put in a windshield. We have to move the rear seat back a few inches. Bob's going to come and put a rear rack behind that seat so we can bolt all of our goodies down to it. I have some lights that I could put on this thing. And then finally, if I haven't mentioned anything that's on this list, obviously, there's stickers, paint, and all this other stuff that we've got to do, all within like 7 days. So I'm sorry, but today's video is kind of gonna be like, here's what I did, and then here's what I did. Check this out. And hopefully that's okay for you. All right, really quick, looking at the top of this front belly pan, I have about this much space between the sump of the oil pan and where the end of this goes. I've bent and cut a couple of pieces. This one goes up to the frame on one side, and this one's bent a little less because it's going to go over the drive shaft. That'll go on this side. So all I need to do is cut another piece that the pan can bolt to, and then, well, these two pieces to the frame and that piece, and then make sure that the distance between these two corners is 24 7/8 inch, and that'll be the front mount to this thing. And that'll leave me about 1.5 inches between the sump and this pan, so if it ever does get crushed in, it'll give me, you know, that much space that I can bend this. But I'm not going to bend this. It's 1/4 inch plate. And here's what I came up with so far. Kind of looks like a piece of metal with some horns on it, because that's exactly what it is. This end and this end will get welded directly to the frame, and I've got a couple of bolts down there in the front, which I probably won't hit anything with rocks on the very front of this. I'm hoping to hit with rocks, if I do, in the middle of the pan, and it can slide off or skid off, hence the name, skid plates. But I'm gonna let that cool, and I need a break. So it's about 12:30, and I'm gonna go eat some leftovers, and I'll come back after I've thought about all of the decisions that I've made in my life.